Hey team, welcome to Benchmarked, the leadership coaching and mental performance podcast with Coach Mess and Coach LaRock. Thanks for joining us today. Today's show is all about our habits. And gee, when I woke up this morning and thinking about doing this show, I was a little nervous because I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to talk about like all the bad habits that I have. But and it's different habits. Some people might think, oh, that's not a bad habit or whatever, but I might have to divulge how much black coffee I drink every day.
I have a sweet tooth. Is that bad? Is that a bad habit? Sweet tooth?
Well, it depends on how it is. Like if you're eating like 6 pounds of brownies every day, that might be a little bit excessive. But it's I think that runs in the family too, doesn't it?
Oh, it's got to be with all that was like a thing. Like we even say it's a messy thing in the family. Like we have one of our sons who loves, like he'll just concoction whatever with whatever types of sweets. And that was my grandfather was like that, like 100%. And that's what we keep saying, that he has the messy gene.
They ran a sugar shack as a family, like right. So they definitely have a sweet tooth in our genes. But for me, it's coffee. I have a weakness for good coffee. Now it's black coffee, and it's funny because if you have a bad habit, sometimes you defend it. Like I feel like I have to defend myself as a coffee drinker in my family. Like you drink too much coffee. Well, 2 to 3 cups a day. Science has proven it's actually good for you.
Oh, keep going.
There's lots of antioxidants. It fights diseases like diabetes, Parkinson's. It's amazing. It's just such an amazing liquid. Love my coffee.
What I've learned through all of these types of things is moderation is the key. That's literally what I've learned about all of this type of stuff. If it's coffee, if it's whatever it is moderation is the key. That's what I've learned. Right or wrong, that's what I think I've learned.
Yeah. Well, let's basically, if you have bad habits, the reason why we're doing this show is bad habits or lack of good habits will really prevent you from achieving peak performance. And even though we focus on leadership, coaching, and mental performance, the whole idea is if you have bad habits, you will not achieve your best self in any of those areas, right? So what is a habit? So we looked up the definition of a habit is they are small decisions that you make and decisions and actions that you perform each day. Duke University says that our habits account for about 40% of our behaviors every single day. That's a lot. That is a lot, right?
So according to Duke, habits account for 40% of our behavior each day. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm just repeating it because I'm trying to let it sink in.
Well,
so we're a product of our habits necessarily, like in a sense.
Yep. Yeah. And I think, when you think about people that you know that are successful, and we're going to get to a list eventually of like what are good habits that you should have in your life every day that make you successful. But it doesn't necessarily have to mean monetarily successful, but it could be healthy. And I think what it is people need to understand that you can coach yourself to transform your habits to become better and get yourself. And I know I'm going to get fired up about this because
you already started.
I know.
Keep going. Let's wear your red shirt today. Go. You're on fire.
Well, I want people to understand, like, we are the sum of all of our habits. You eat too much, you drink too much, you don't read enough, you don't sleep well, you don't exercise. All those things add up. You have poor financial discipline. Like, these are all different things that, you have 16 credit cards that you don't pay. You have no idea where your money's going. Like, these are all things that are bad habits that can shackle you to a minimum standard of performance, right? And then our friend Zach Sorensen, in his book, The Hard 90, he says when things aren't going well or I'm not doing well or things are tough, the answer isn't doing more of what doesn't work, right? It's a process that you have to have and undertake. It's all in your habits, right? So working harder is not necessarily going to get you anywhere if you're still performing the bad habits. We always say doing more of what doesn't work isn't going to make it work any better.
When I read that, when I think back at Signal Lights, where that would be not necessarily Signal Lights, but the 3 types of people: primal, prayer, and perfect. And this would be a primal example, right? When things aren't going well or they're tough, the answer isn't always more or harder. Those are those primal people who just kind of go crazy, not going well. So they want to go to, how do I explain this one? If things are going well, let's say, you know, you're gaining some weight, you're not happy with yourself. And then the next, you know, the option to do, if you're not happy with that, if you're happy with it, have at it. If you're not, to do something, you're just like, you can't get engaged. So then you go primal, which you go, and then you just grab a tub of ice cream and you hammer it. Then you go get a bag of chips and you hammer that. So it's like you want to bring yourself to the basement, I would call it, or to the bottom. And sometimes, honestly, you need to reach the bottom to be able to, because there's no way you can't go any further down. So the only way is up. So sometimes people do that. They literally get themselves to the basement and they have no choice but to be able to come up. So if we can grab you before you get to the basement, maybe it'll help a little bit more.
Absolutely. And I want to also add to this that habits aren't necessarily just actions, but they're also thoughts. Because remember, in their definitions, they're decisions. So having negative thoughts can be a bad habit. And some people fall into that loop. It's a loop, right? And it's a trap where you're like, oh, I'm not very good. I don't look good. I'm not fit. I'm not strong enough. I don't want to go to the gym. These are all negatives. You have to get out of that. And one of the things that we're going to talk about in the show is not necessarily, you can't, you have to replace a habit. You don't necessarily cancel one. You have to replace it. So we say you don't break a habit, you have to replace it. So for example, drinking, instead, if you drink too much alcohol, because we know alcohol leads to, especially the older you get, it leads to a lot of bodily performance negatives. So replace drinking alcohol with maybe drinking tea. Or here's a little shout out to the tea drinkers out there. Instead of having that beer, have a tea, right? So these are all things that you have to replace. You want to have your bag of chips, go for a small walk. So replace a bad habit with a good habit.
I like that. I never thought about it that way till you mentioned, we talked about it before, but I really like the replacing. And we can see how could be maybe difficult at the beginning, but it's not supposed to be easy. If you're trying to replace a habit, it's not supposed to be easy. It's going to take a process. And I talked to a student yesterday. He was asking about mileage I was running. I don't know why he out randomly is like, mileage I'm running. I don't know if he knows about our routine we just got into.
Oh my God. Just for you guys to know, we are along with 3 other friends of ours, we are on a 50-mile a month program. So we're all trying to bang out 50 miles a month. And each month, actually, is going to increase. So next month is 60 and the month after that is 70. So who's in the lead right now, G?
As of last night, Mark Messier.
Yes, Messier, sir. Sue boy. Yeah, here we go. So yeah. we're banging out some mileage. So anyway, sorry, I totally derailed your thought.
No, but that's good. That's exactly it right there, is to create other habits, because now I want, it's the competitiveness in me. And when I logged in my mileage last night, I put in 2 miles yesterday. I'm looking, trust me, I know what everyone's at for their mileage. I look, but that's your accountability partners. That's the competitiveness. Yeah. It's replacing habits that I probably already had before, which was, watching something on Netflix. That's not helping me achieve to what I want to be able to achieve. So I can only speak for myself that I got into that lull. But that's what I always say, success is getting up one more time than you fall. Like, we are going to fall. You're going to fall through this process, but it's like how long you're going to feel sorry for yourself, how long you're going to sit on that couch. That kind of determines.
And the accountability, you know what? You just said it. The accountability partner is huge, and we've already done a show on accountability and having a partner. And if you don't have a good accountability partner, it becomes the accountability mirror, where you're listing these things down. Like, don't sit down on the couch and watch Netflix. Go for it and get a couple of miles in, or bang out some push-ups, or hold a plank. Do something that is going to make you better. So let's talk statistics. If 40% of our day is habits, and we're trying to get 1% better each day, that's a lot to overcome. Mathematically, if 40% of your your habits are, out of those, if 15, 20% of them are bad, you're going to really be fighting that 1% better every day. Right. And I think that's something that people have to realize is, These things can have a huge impact on your successes and your failures in all aspects of your life. They'll make you more success. Good habits make you more successful. Bad habits make you less successful. You will not reach your personal peak.
But what are you saying to the people? Because I've had those conversations. Like, what are you saying to the people? Well, then, I feel like I'm a robot and I'm just following a routine. I can't just go with the flow of the day. Like everything is like so planned. What do you have for those people?
You got to unshackle yourself and take control of your environment. I think this is what people don't realize is sometimes we lose control of our environment. We let other people, well, hang on. Let me back up a second. Shocker. Shocker, right? Your habits are controllable. I don't know if we've done a show about anything that is not controllable. That might be something down the road, but like everything we've talked about so far in our 9 elements of successful leadership, every person that we've interviewed on the show, we've talked about characteristics of successful people, that what made them successful is they've taken control of their environment. Your habits are totally controllable. Now, nobody's perfect. What's your line about being perfect?
It's not about being perfect, it's about being present.
That's right. And progress is the standard, right? So if you think about it, are you progressing? And for us, that target is, shout out to Zach Sorensen, is that 1% better every single day. It doesn't take much, 14 minutes and 24 seconds to get better each day. But then if all of a sudden now you're knocking down bad habits, you're going to get a lot better, more than 1% better every single day. Transforming your habits will literally transform your life. But before we get too deep into this show, you have to understand it's going to require a lot of self-honesty and self-reflection. Where you're like, meh, my bag of Doritos daily isn't that bad, right? Now, you got 2 young boys, you got twin boys, healthy, happy, strong, good looking, I'll add, thanks to their mother. They're good looking. I'm assuming the fact that you and Nicole are both physical educators, they are probably going to school with a half decent, healthy lunch.
Yeah, I know what's the hard part about that. You're 100% right. But what's hard about that is what's happening around them, their environment. Right. And it's not blame other people. It's not blame, shame, and complain type of thing. But they're going to go to school and they're going to see the Twinkies. They're going to see all these other types of elements. And trust me, it's not a perfect lunch when they go out every single day or even every day. But it's a consistent conversation. Where are your carrots? Where are your fruit? Where are your vegetables? Drink more water than you would. It's an evolving thing. It doesn't just naturally happen. And again, I want to talk about that a little bit earlier. It's the start that stops most people, right? Because they're going to want to drink more juice than they do water. So if you can introduce water slowly, I'm just giving an example of that. Taking away some of the sweets, like he's got one of them's got the messy sweets, right? So that's the first thing he's going for. Because it was NASA I was telling you about. NASA, when they throw out
A
I was going
rocket?
to say a spaceship. Oh my God, a rocket. I'm watching too much stuff. A rocket to space. They use up 80%. I could be a little bit off here. 80% of the fuel is like takeoff in the first portion of the trip. 80%.
Wow.
Right. And the other 20% is like going, doing your thing and coming back. So it's the start that takes the most energy out of us. But if you can get that process going, they'll fall into the good habits. But like you said, it starts, example, with the lunch. We're talking about good habits.
Yeah. And I know for some people it becomes a financial thing. If it's a financial thing, there's other options, and that's something every school district has, like lunch programs, stuff like that, breakfast stuff. But you can there's better ways around it. And the reason I bring that up is because I'm working in a high school, I see kids, they go for fast food every day. So these kids that say to me, I'm an elite athlete coach. What do I need to get bigger, faster, stronger, smarter? Eating poutine at lunch 3 out of 5 days a week is not going to help you. And venti mocha frappuccino, latticino, whatever you're going to get is not a habit of elite mindset people. So this is another reason why I don't love the word elite. Do not call yourself elite if you do not have elite habits. I'm sorry. I'm getting a little bit fired up.
No,
But
no, I'm
it
with you.
brings me up a good story. I have to tell you this story. Speaking of going to Starbucks. So as a coach, we were going on a road trip, and I was coaching a girls hockey team. So first year coaching, we were going to a tournament, and I think it was about an hour bus ride, and through traffic it was tough. And my bus driver, I always get the same bus driver. His name's Reg. He's amazing. So we load up, and the girls are like, hey, can we stop and grab a coffee on the way? Well, there's a Starbucks on the way just before we turn off on the highway. And I was like, yeah, I haven't had my coffee yet, so I'll go in for my black coffee. So what I didn't realize was that, like, you go into Starbucks with 17 teenage girls. It takes a long time to order. So Reg, who's also a black coffee drinker, he's like, Mess, we are going to be late. And so I'm looking at what these girls are coming on the bus with, and these massive drinks with like foam and stuff sticking out of it and sprinkles. And so we were late. We were late for our first game. So we ended up winning the tournament, but we were late. So the tournament organizer wasn't too, I'm, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. So we instituted a new rule on our hockey team. It's 3 words or less for your Starbucks order. If you cannot, so fast forward a couple of years, the girls get a handle on this. We go to the same tournament every year. We leave 15 minutes earlier now than usual. So it's like 6 o'clock in the morning. So I get up and I say, girls, our rule is if you cannot order in 3 words or less, you cannot get off the bus. So of course my leaders are trained in this, right? So they go, or if there's the smart ones, they pre-order to circumvent this Messier rule, right? So this is where I felt like an absolute jerk. So this one girl who's like the sweetest grade 9 girl, and I knew her brother, I knew her family. Everybody gets off the bus except for her. And she's sitting there on the bus, and I was like, I'm going to use a different name. I'm going to say Paige. I'm like, Paige, what's up? You want something from Starbucks? She's like, Mr. Messier, I can't order in less than 5 words at Starbucks. I was like, come on, let's go. Let's do 1.
Oh my God.
So I broke my own rule. Anyways, so Reg got a laugh at that. He called me, he's like, oh, you are such a muffin. You just totally let that girl like just totally own you. I was like, yeah, man, like one kid, whatever it is. So,
Yeah.
but you have to have control of your environment, right? I think this is what we're talking about. And the nutrition part is it's a habit. It's a habit. Reaching for the wrong snacks at night. Like, man, I know we're going to do a show about like nutrition for performance, but what you snack on at night is huge. And we know, here's the thing, the science, we know what's good for our bodies. We know what's bad for our bodies. There's no denying what we fuel ourselves with makes a huge difference. And I think this, again, it's a habit. If you can't walk away from the Dorito. So back to what I was saying about the kids going for lunch, like, don't call yourself an elite athlete if you're not following elite type of protocols for your body. And on a daily basis, it's just easy to go get poutine and a bag of chips or whatever. The
You know
lunches.
who's good at this? It's like Coke is really good at their stuff. Pepsi's really, Doritos, whoever owns all that stuff. Like that's the people, I'm going to call them people that you're fighting against. And it's let's just call it, it's a tough battle. It is what it is. And if you can get into the right habits, it's not a tough battle. But I'm probably speaking to the majority here where, yeah, it's, you're walking in like the cereal aisle. Remember when Paige and Lauren were younger, probably going to that, like it was the worst thing ever is going to the cereal aisle.
Yeah, for sure. It's like going into a casino for an adult. All the right? All the colors, and it's like,
so like, I don't know. I had my classes right to some of these places. I can't remember where we got the information, but basically the ones that have the most sugar at kids' height. Like when the kids are walking at their height, they're like prime time because that's the visual. like the colorful boxes, and like McDonald's did a great job putting a clown as their person. Like, oh, they're cool. They'll feed you poison and when you get in here. Like,
Yeah,
I don't like. And how's McDonald at the Olympics? How is McDonald at the
I know.
Olympics?
I know. Money
They
talks,
must like
man.
money talks. Like it's
Money
just
talks.
anyway.
You don't see broccoli
Um,
farmers lined up to sponsor the Olympics, right?
well, that's the thing. It's expensive. You talked about the financial part, but it's expensive to eat healthy. It's
Well,
like it is, but it
okay.
isn't. But like when I'm looking, I'm trying to feed a family. I don't know.
It is, and that's heartbreaking. It's
Yeah,
heartbreaking. And this is a whole other conversation. I don't want to get into the politics
yeah,
on our show, but that's the heartbreaking thing is we make it easy to fall into the bad habits. It's a trap, right?
yeah.
It's easy. Marketing. It's
Oh,
just like you just get lured into it. It's just
yeah.
too easy. Now, this is where we're going to talk about take control of your environment. And I think this is where you have to make tough decisions. And you're going to say, you might call bullshit on me, and that's okay. Because I'm always going to say, like, I don't necessarily love taking part in like go out and get sloshed and on like a Tuesdays wing nights. Well, I had a friend of mine. We play and he was like, I can't lose weight. I'm like, well, why are we going for wings on Tuesday nights and drinking, 6 pitchers of beer? So I said, we're gonna do barbells. So we're gonna come and lift. And Tuesday nights we want to hang out. It's the beers and the wings are tasty, but if you want to make a difference and you don't understand why you cannot perform better and you're starting to like you're pre-diabetic and you're all this stuff. So the idea of we're not going to meet at a bar anymore for whatever. The idea is our friendship, not necessarily the food and the drink we're going to have. We're going to replace that with barbells and we're going to train or we're going to go for a run or we're going to do something that's a little bit healthier, coffee instead of beer. Hey, let's go for a beer. No, I don't meet people for a beer. I meet people for a coffee because I know it saves me 500 calories, right? You're going to say, man, this guy's like no fun to be around. But honestly, it's like these are choices that you have to make with people. Yeah, I'll enjoy a beer every now and then, but it's like it's not a habit that, Tuesday night swing night, Thursday night says it adds up over the course of a week. If you really sit down and you look at your calendar, and I had one of my clients last week showed me what his budget was for the last couple of months for fast food and drinking and the number just in terms of money and dollars spent. Forget about the calories. It was unreal. But I also calculated, said, okay, so this is how many drink he kind of showed me like how many drinks he had. So we label out, but I said, you've consumed 25,000 calories in alcohol in 2 weeks. 25,000 calories in alcohol in 2 weeks. And when you put them in different perspectives, it starts to change your thinking and your processing. Now, how did we help this person change that habit? Well, okay. So you don't have to completely change your life, especially we have people listening to our show that are probably in sales. So they're always at dinners and they're doing different things and meetings. So the alcohol tends to flow at these, right? So if you're a rum and coke person, you maybe change to like a vodka soda. So you try to like minimize the damage. If you can't totally step away from the alcohol, minimize the damage, fewer drinks, whatever, right? Bring it down to whatever you can. Now, you and I talked about the Habit Share app. You want to talk about this because this is how I'm helping him right now because I've included him on our Habit Share stuff.
Just that Habit Share is the app, no cost, free app. So we don't make money from this or advertising or anything, not yet. But jump on there and then just you're giving out your different types of habits. I'm gonna pull out my phone here. Here's the other part too. I hide my phone
Yep.
while we do this. And the research that I saw on that was basically you're 30% less likely to pay attention if you can even see your phone.
Yep.
Interesting. So when we do these, I kind of get rid of it. I'm gonna sneak in,
Yeah, do it.
grab it.
What is it that we share with each other? Let's
So
share with
here
our
we go.
listeners. So what happens on the Habit Share app is you set up the habits that you want to do daily or don't do daily, And what happens is now is JG's my accountability partner. I don't have to like, it's just we check in with each other.
So right now for us that we share with each other, and you can share with I don't know, as many people as you want, but we have 3 people we're sharing with now. So Make My Bed is on my habit share. Train Your Brain Like an Olympian. This is a book I'm reading from Jean-François Menal. The Success Hotline with Dr. Gilbert, my daily push-ups, and then now I've introduced, as of this week, the April Miles, Road to 50. So Mark can see what I'm doing. I can see what he's doing in his habits, and he'll share here shortly. But what I like about this, like example, make the bed. So my streak is 6 days in a row. I'm overall 81%. So it's telling me, how long I've done in a row, what my percentage is. And we went to Florida. So I made my bed in the hotel 2 days, and then I went kibosh on that. So that's on me. But again, and this is hard for me. I talk to people like it's about being present, not perfect. I like being perfect, trust me. But this keeps me honest, and this reminds me that it's about the process. This reminds me, because I could just kind of give up, throw the app away, and it is what it is. No, like you got to stick through times when they're tough. And for me, this might not mean much to others, but me seeing myself at 81% bugs me. So it's a constant reminder. Go ahead, Mark, on yours.
No, well, for me, I share call mom. Try to call mom at least 3 times a week. I've got some friends that he calls his mom once a day, which is amazing. But I try to call my mom at least 3 times a week. Strength training. So I've got my strength training set for 4 days a week. Cardio. Now that I'm on the road to 50, I'm moving that to every day. And mobility and yoga, stretching, stuff like that, just as I'm getting older, and no booze. So trying to eliminate, because obviously coming out of COVID, drinking every day was just something that we had, and inflammation set in, felt like a bag of hammers. So I was just like, got to clean up. Now it's been a long time now since we've kind of made our way out of COVID. So I try to limit the days that I would have a drink, like a nightcap. Oh, I'm just going to have a scotch tonight, or a beer with dinner, or a glass of wine with dinner. I try to limit that. And I'm finding like my recovery from workouts is way better, way, way better. My capacity to do more work is way, way more better. So that's my habit share. And then with the client that I was talking about, it was alcohol, exercise, no fast food. He lives in the U.S., so for him it's a Chick-fil-A thing. Is that how you say it?
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like, oh, mess, it's so good. I've never had it. I don't remember the last time I've actually had fast food. It's crazy. But the idea is they're controllable. Now, JG, going back to, I don't know if we've really spent time on the idea of making your bed and why it's important. Why is that? Like, people are like, why does he have that on his habit share? Why? And I make my bed every day. I don't have that on the habit share, but it gets made every day. Why is that there?
See, that's the other part too. Maybe you don't have it on yours just basically because you've got into that routine. I'm not saying I'm not in that routine, but sometimes for me, I needed that reminder. So making the bed, I'm going to jump into 2 different directions with this. This is part of the AM routine, and I think people need to have, or I suggest having, I feel like super aggressive when I say you need to have. I suggest an AM, PM routine. And the AM routine, and Marco, you can dive into the book. You can dive into the book about making the bed. But starting off the day, making my bed, I eat a prune every morning, so that's good for the brain. Right, brushing your teeth and listening to Success Hotline. That's kind of my AM routine. And making the bed is, for me, I look at it as like it's 1-0 me versus life at the end of the day. Like, so at the end of the day, I've had a blah day. I can come back, my bed is made. It's just something appealing that I started off my day on the right foot. So it's very appealing in that sense. And it's also setting up the right habits for the day. Now I'm ready to conquer the next thing in my day, and then the next thing. I've already knocked one thing down in the first 2 minutes of my day. My first thing is taking your alarm, getting rid of that. So that's that's my trigger, I guess, is the alarm. And then we'll talk about pushing snooze 5, 6, 7 times. That's a whole other conversation. But one thing I can suggest for that, and I think I've mentioned it in other shows as well, if you really want to get into that, plug your phone in if you use your phone to wake you up in the morning. plug it in a different outlet, like that's further away from your bed that you can't just crawl over and touch it. Because if you have literally, when you get your feet on the floor, it's like a switch. It gets you fired up basically and get ready to go. So if you can get your phone in a different place completely, then you have to go shut off your alarm. Then typically you're going to avoid what am I trying to say? Snooze button. There you go. Sorry, the snooze
That's
button.
a trap too.
Oh my God. So go back to you for a little bit if you want to dig into making the bed.
Well, it's just Admiral McCraven, U.S. Navy. Watch the video on YouTube. I'll actually put a link on to that YouTube video. I'll put it up on in our show notes. It's one of the best speeches that he delivers, and he starts off with, making your bed every day can literally change the world. It's like, it's such an impressive conversation. And I just, one of my friends actually knows that I preach this all the time. He just bought me the book. So he wrote the book on, and the title of the book is Make Your Bed Every Day. And I just keep reiterating this to people, how it's just a terrific habit. And you said it right. It's 1-0 for you on the day. It's 1-0 for you. You've done successfully completed a task. So if you're a person that's just like the queen or the king of unfinished projects, you've just finished a project. And if you have an absolutely shitty day, at least you go home and you're getting into a nicely made bed. I coached with the guy, one of my first couple of years of coaching, and I loved his saying and I use this for football players and I use this for baseball players. When you wear your uniform, you have to wear your uniform right. So tuck your shirt in, don't have like one side. And this is it drives me nuts in football when they're not wearing the uniform properly, right? So everybody wants to be an individual. So here's and I'm going to sound old school on this. Let the comments come in. But if you want to be that individual, play better. Show me that you're an individual by standing out from the rest, by playing better. Whatever sport it is. Don't have the thing dangling from the side, your shirt half tucked in, all that stuff. And some people now say, well, this is the modern style. But if you look at professionals, they all look great. Right? They might have different shoes, they might have different whatever, but their shirts are tucked in, they look good. The high school kid who's got like one sock high, one sock down so that, he can stand out on TV or whatever. No, I don't buy that. You stand out by playing better. Wear the uniform. We all wear a uniform so we could look like a team. I feel like I'm going on a rant here.
If you want to, I'm on the same page. If you want to be an individual, play an individual sport, go run the 100 meter, go bowling by yourself and go, darts, go play darts by yourself. You want to be part of a team, buy into the team concept. Tuck in your shirt, wear your belt, put your hat on right.
Yeah.
Pretty simple process.
Wear the same color socks as everybody else. Anyway, so this coach used to say, young man, you look like an unmade bed. And I was just like, oh my God, I love that. And I went to Catholic school as a high school kid, and you had to tuck your shirt in, your dress shirt, right? We wore uniform. And Mrs. Kandari, bless her heart, love that lady. She used to just hound people. We knew she'd stand outside her classroom and she'd be on you. Like, you got to tuck your shirt in, young man. But I would say, like, man, if you don't look good in your uniform, you look like an unmade bed. I'll never forget that. Kenny Boychuk used to say that to kids all the time. Tuck your shirt in, young man. You look like an unmade bed. And everybody's like, yeah, nobody wants to come into a room with an unmade bed, right? First of all, some people, now you're at home thinking, nobody ever comes into my bedroom. It's not about anybody else.
No.
It's
exactly.
about you.
No.
It's about you. You have control over that environment, right?
I went to a school with
Sorry,
no
G,
uniform. No, I'm good.
I need to breathe a little bit here.
We're good. Here, I'll try and fill in some time for you. I went to a school with no uniform, and now I've been an educator for about 20 years in schools with uniforms. And the conversation I have now, and knowing a little bit more in life, 2.0, 3.0, is every profession has, like Tim Hortons has uniforms, McDonald's has uniforms. You're not typically going into a job that doesn't have some type of uniform. And it's, again, I think, getting you into the right habits. It's getting you into those habits for success. That's literally what I think it does. it's tough. You want to be an individual in a school setting, right? So I want to dye my hair. I want to roll something up just so it's different from somebody else. Like stand out academically. How about you do that first? Let's do that and be an individual, right? Like,
Hey, speaking of rolling something up, were you in that style with track pants in like the 80s where you
oh yeah,
had the one leg up? Yeah.
no, but I don't know if it was one. I didn't do the one. I thought one was offside a little bit, but I had the two, there was
The
something
two.
going on with twos when I was in elementary school. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I
You
had a
would have
buddy
been.
who would pick me up. He's the style guy. Ryan Rivers was his name. He'd pick me up from school. My brother's older than I am. And he would just look at me in the morning like, pretty boy's here or something like that to pick me up. And then because he walked by my house and we walked to school together.
Oh,
But yeah, he was like, whatever that style was, he was on it.
I love it. I love it. And there are opportunities. I'm not saying individualism sucks or individuality is probably the right. I don't think that sucks at all, but there's a place for it, right?
Time and place. Everything's about a time and
Yeah,
place.
time and place. Absolutely. Like tattoos and pure, like go for it. You're playing on a team, you wear the uniform. That's
Yeah.
my
I
thing.
still even look at the Yankees. Like, Donaldson we're watching now is with the Yankees and whoever they're bringing in for players. Not Lindor last year. Who was it that him and Batista got in a fight? Anyways, he had a big scruffy beard or whatever he looked like when he was at the Rangers. Comes to the Yankees, I didn't even recognize the guy. Like, I
Yeah.
like that.
Clean
Not
shaven.
necessarily I like the clean shaven. Like that is what it is for, but they have a standard.
Yeah.
So whatever your program, your organization, where you are, there needs to be a standard of some sort.
Yeah, and I don't care if people disagree with me. And I our football coaching staff fights this tooth and nails with guys, right? And it's like we all wear the same color. Like if you want to change a color year to year, as like what your sock color is or whatever to change the uniform, but we all have to be the same. And again, people don't get it. If you understand, if I give you the perspective of the idea of be an individual by your play, not by what you look, right? And it's just like, yeah. Anyways, too much mustard or too much hot dog for the bun, as
Yeah,
some people like to say, right? Hot dogging, you're hot dogging. Too much hot dog for the bun, and that's not fun for anybody.
too
So
much mustard.
too much mustard. The mustard's dripping off of that, right? So unshackle yourself from bad habits and negative thoughts. So I think this is where we need to get into the idea of people are going to say, I'm not motivated to change my habits. It has nothing to do with motivation. It has everything to do with discipline. Stop searching for motivation and start cultivating your discipline. Motivation is unreliable.
It's a
It
feeling.
right?
It's a feeling.
Yes, right?
Feelings
It
are facts. Feelings are not facts. Sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah,
Just
no,
kind of
no,
jumping
no,
on.
but that's what it is, right? That's why we do this. Discipline is what gets it done, right? It's what's best for you to get it done even when you don't feel like it. And there's probably days like for you on our habit share list, both of us, there's days where it's like, oh, I don't want to do this. And I shared the story a couple shows ago about like it was raining out and I need to get my
Yeah.
mileage in and I went for my walk. So to me, that wasn't motivation. I didn't have the motivation to go, but I manufactured the discipline to do it.
Last
It
night I
had,
got my 2 miles in, and do you think I felt at 10:30 at night? I'm ready to go to bed. I'm tapped out, but I knew I didn't get my mileage in. Do you think I felt like going downstairs and hammering out the elliptical and treadmill and getting my mileage in? No, but I knew I had to look at your face today and see how much of a lead you had. But once I got that's the thing though, like start that stops most people. But once I got going, and I'm sure just like you in your walk, once you got going, and then I probably got 5, 6 texts from me like, oh, what about this idea? What about that idea? And same thing yesterday, I started reading my book. So I knocked that out of my habit share. And then I just wanted time to myself to reflect and stop thinking about 50. I went thinking 50 different places. Like, what about the podcast now? What about this? And these are all thoughts I would have never had if I would have just said, okay, I'm going to go to bed, brush my teeth, go to bed.
dude, you just teed me up here for next part of this is we talk about certain habits of successful people and what they do. And one of the things is giving yourself time to actually think. Because you asked me earlier about like what if you feel like you're robotic, your day's robotic and you got to do bang 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 bang. You have to give yourself 15 to like start off slow. Like I try to do 30 minutes of just like thinking. I need to actually think about something. It could be on a walk. Like for me, like I say, like when I'm out riding my bike, that's when I get a lot of thinking done. You're on your own, you're in your zone, no phone, nothing. So I'm doing two things at one time. I'm exercising and I'm thinking and I'm processing. I actually dedicate that time as a thinking time. Work training, strength training, not so much because I'm trying to be dialed into what I'm doing, but I have to give myself time to think. And that's just part of a habit, right?
And I've shared this in other shows, but I'll share it again now to piggyback on some of your stuff. This isn't every single morning. This pops up on my phone. My phone is my reminders. One is silence. Let's have some silence. Silence. Affirmations. Visualize. Read. Exercise. And scribe. So that's kind of setting the tone for me, a reminder for the day. Let's get these things knocked out. But I'm with you, man. We don't get enough silence. We literally do not. There's just too much noise.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and that's a tough one, right? Lock in. Don't block out, lock in.
Yeah.
So like you might have to remove yourself from certain situations. But now the other one I want to do too is like we've been talking about like the bad things, but if you have good habits, celebrate those things. Be proud of those small things. Like I went off on a show. I don't know if we were teaching a conference, but I went off on a show about people that are late. I get so pissed off with people that show up late and don't respect my time. If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. Okay, so that's something, it is a controllable. Don't, unless there is a car accident or whatever, but it is a controllable. And I know we talked about this before, but if you're a person that knows that, okay, I show up on time, I'm reliable, I do this, I eat well, I sleep well, I take this time, celebrate those things. That is a really important thing for you to do is be proud of those good habits. Don't take them for granted because there's a lot of people that don't have it. And just because you have good habits and other people don't have good habits doesn't make you better than them. What we're trying to do is we're just trying to help the people that don't have the best habits, trying to maximize their potential, maximize their performance capabilities. I think that's what it comes down to. How good can you get if you tried to replace some of your bad habits, right?
If you found your why, and we're always looking for our why, and once you found your why, these habits that you've put in place for you help you achieve that goal. I really don't think you can just go wandering and things are going to catch up to you like, oh, it just happened. Nothing just happened. And back to the people who say, well, I get robotic and I just want to go with the flow. We all have habits. We are literally creatures of habits. You wake up, there's going to be a habit. You're going to go to bed at probably a specific times that you don't even know it. You have so many habits you're not aware of. And if you can start being organized, I guess, in your habits and being aware, and the more you can be aware, the more you can improve and make corrections if need be.
Yeah. So you've talked before in another show about how we see in pictures, right? Right? Is that, did I say that right? We see in
Yeah, you've seen
pictures.
pictures, not words. Yeah.
So this guy in 1993, and this is an idea of a habit visual, make it visual, right? So like for us, it's that app. We use the Habit Share app. Could be a sticky note on your mirror, that accountability. This paperclip strategy came from a guy,
Oh, love this.
Trent Deersmid is his name. Okay. So he would go to work in a bank in the morning time and he had a jar on his desk that was empty and he had another jar that had 120 paper clips. And what he would do was he'd make a sales call. I think it was a bank, wherever. They're trying to make money. He would take a paper clip, move it to the empty jar. And his goal was by the end of the day, he would empty the jar, one jar, and it would be all the other jar would be full because he'd made enough. Anyways, what they found was this guy was making the bank or whatever tons of money because he was making calls. He was going through. It was a visual for him, so he created a visual habit, something that he could tie to, that made him do it every single day. Making your bed, check it off a list. If it's a checklist, it's a checklist. And stay tuned because we're gonna have a journal available for sale soon that'll have these habits on there for adults, and we're gonna have one for kids as well, where you could literally check it off for your teenage or your kids, your adolescent kid. Make your bed every day. Amazing habit to get started. Teach your kids these good habits, right? These are all things that are super important. So when you think about creating a visual, it's really, really important.
And for this guy at the same time, measurement is motivation, right? At the same time, so he had the visual in front of him. Measurement is motivation. I had 120 clips, it's 120 paper clips. There's your measurement, and his motivation is to hammer those to the other side to get through that. So measure motivation. And love what you're talking about in regards to the checklist. So checklist manifesto is another book we can recommend. And then checklist manifesto talking about like doctors, they're which arm is it that they're doing surgery on? Like they literally, what's your name? Like I remember at some point that's getting annoying. I call somebody, even we were calling a bank and they're asking you for your credit card number, your client card number, and you talk to somebody else and they double check, and then they double check your address and your name. And at some point I'm like, didn't I just finish doing this to somebody? But if I'm running a business, I want to make sure I'm doing a good job. So kudos to you guys that are doing it right with the checklist, but the doctors the same way. Pilots. Can you imagine pilots didn't have a checklist? Like, I think I flipped the switch for the helmet. All these professions have checklists to follow. Like, they're amazing things to do. And I used to think checklists, well, like you're handcuffed again, right? You said unshackle. That's how I used to feel. But it's what's the terminology used for that? It equals freedom.
Discipline equals freedom.
Yeah.
Discipline. See, and it seems counterproductive because you would say, like, you used the term earlier, robotic. It's not robotic. I'm completing what I need to complete to be the best version of myself. And yeah, I'm not like, woo, whatever, that's, yeah, there's times where it's like, yeah, let's go, we're having fun, but there's some things that need to be taken care of. And if you think about it, there's opportunities for checklists everywhere. There's apps on your phone. You can get apps on your computer, boom, 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 tasks, whatever there are. They get it done. Get it done. What are you waiting for? Like, I was listening to a show the other day, and the guy's like, your people are financial struggles. Get your stuff organized. Get your financial house in order. Know how many credit cards you have out there. Know where your bills are going every month. It's not hard. You can organize it, spreadsheets or whatever. It is not hard. It's not motivation. It's discipline.
Yeah.
It's discipline.
I remember Nicole and I were saving for our wedding, and we buckled down. So we had made jars. We got little mason jars because we liked, sometimes going out to eat. We liked going to the movies, and I can't remember what the other jar we had. And we would put a certain amount of money in each one of those jars. And that was the money we had to spend either for the week or the month. I couldn't remember right now. And that's all we had to spend. If we were out for going to the movies, then we're not going to the movies the rest of the month or the rest of the week or whatever it was. And that was the money we had. And we saved the money for our own wedding and some. And it came back to having the right habits, or if you want, discipline at the same time, but having the right habits in place in regards to the finances. And it's funny you talk about finances because after our show, I literally have on my dining room table the bills that I need to take care of today. They're literally sitting in order, ready to knock them out of the park off the list. And that's off the list today, take care of our finances at the same time. But it takes discipline. It takes the right habits, I guess, at the same time. But just being aware, again, it's just being aware. If you would simply know how much money you're spending on takeout, how much money you're spending on your cell phone bill, how much money, and if you're saying, wow, we're struggling. If you look at those things and you trim, example, I'm going to leave Bell and I'm going to go to the local company. I don't need these channels on my TV. Gone. Yeah. I don't use my landline anymore. I just use my cell phone. But we just get caught in this rat race, basically. We can't push pause, listen, and then put some checklists in place. Wow. Some habits.
And let's make it easy for people. And then we talk about
How are we going to do that, Mark?
We're going to give you an instruction book manual right now.
Here we go.
Is basically what we want you to think about is, like JG said, rather than take a show that you can do without, right? So I don't know, Dexter. You were talking about Dexter. I think a couple of weeks ago you talked about how you just decided you weren't going to do Dexter. So that's an hour. Instead of watching that for an hour, maybe you're going to go read for an hour, or you're going to go for a walk for an hour instead, right? So you replace a bad with a good. And I think that's a really fine place for people to start. It doesn't have to you don't have to take it all on at once, but you have to start somewhere and identify the ones that are preventing you from your peak performance, right? So first of all, I'm going to say take care of your body. So you have to have good nutrition, good exercise, sleep. And I say don't sleep in. Like get what you need, but don't sleep in too much.
Okay, so how much sleep are you recommending? I'm gonna go through a point form here.
Here's here's what I'm going to say about sleep. Everybody's different. Everybody's different. You talk to like you see like guys like Jocko, he's showing his watch at like 4:30 in the morning. He's probably going to bed at 10. Like some people can for like we know that we need quality sleep, right? And I actually read an article the other day where they said even if you can't sleep, just laying there is better than getting up to watch TV. So at least your body's like resting. You're not necessarily sleeping, but it's better than not lying there and getting up and going to watch TV. So I don't want to answer this how much sleep question because I know that I can get away with 7 hours. But I think is like I find this more early morning. I love early mornings now. I love my early mornings. It's so you get so much done. And again, back at that reflection, quiet reflection time, exercise. I can read, I can podcast, I could do extra work before I go to my other job. So these are all things that you have to control your environment. Staying up till like 2 a.m. flipping through channels and TikTok and all that stuff is not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to get you anywhere. Unless you're working and you're an influencer and you're doing that and you're making money doing that, good for you. But if you're just mindlessly doing it, it ain't going to happen. So the sleep thing, it's like, I don't have a straight answer because I know people that can like 5 hours of sleep. Fine. Some people, I need 8 or 9. Fine. And we know teenagers is different. But when you get that sleep to me is more important than how long. So staying up till 2 in the morning, sleeping till noon ain't going to cut it because half the world has gone by before you get out of bed. You're not going to be very productive.
And those shift workers obviously adjust that accordingly.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay, what about eating? What about eating? What can you tell us about eating?
I don't want to get into too many details about eating because we're going to do a full show on it, but I think it's clean. I don't like, I just eat clean. Eat clean. Protein centric diet. Okay. Lots of protein. Most people, I read a great article. There's a Dr. Gabrielle Leon in the US. Fantastic about protein. And she says, we're not over fat. We're under muscled. And I think one of the problems in our diet today, and it's great, a lot of the research that I've read about diet and nutrition is we are under protein. And I'm not going to get into the idea of paleo and all that stuff and whatever it is, but we do not as a society consume enough protein. So whether you want to go plant-based, that's a whole other conversation, but we need to get enough protein. But eating enough protein and lots of fruits and vegetables with good quality carbs. It's not complicated. Again, it's discipline. It's not motivation. There's knowledge out there. If you want to be a vegan, go be a vegan. There's lots of knowledge to do that in a healthy way. If you want to be in the carnivore diet, there's lots of knowledge out there how to do it and do it right. Go do it. But there's no science that says Doritos, Twinkies, and s'mores are part of a healthy, balanced diet. Like it's just not going to happen.
Shareholders say so. Anyways, and then let's go exercise. Exercise.
And then again, exercise is individual, but I say this, people probably get tired and that are in my circle. Motion is lotion. Motion is lotion. You have to do resistance training and you have to do cardio. Right. So, and I'm a big believer. I've loved doing my yoga. I love it. Like I'll try to bang it out 2-3 times a week for at least 30 minutes because as I'm getting older, I'm pushing 50. I played every sport under the sun with contacts and my joints are feeling like it does make me feel a ton better. Plus it gets into the breathing. Like it covers a lot of bases for me. So exercise, it's not magical. Right? It's not magical. Like as we get older, you need to be stronger. I always say you got to stay relevant, right? If I can't pick up my grandkids down the road, I'll be so dissatisfied,
Yeah.
right? I want to be able to grab my grandkids or whatever, or heck, I want to wrestle my kid. Like she comes home every night, like right every now and then we'll throw down. We'll just check to see if who's still boss around here, right? Now the tables are turning a little bit, but that's a story for another day. But those are all things that like, you have to stay relevant, be able to go for a walk. And one of the things that I was always proud of, my dad, well into his 70s, so he would retire and he would cross country ski or walk 15K. He'd go into the shack, have a coffee and like a little oatmeal, and then go back out and do another 15K. And I remember we were out east somewhere where we went like climbing. We went for a hike, and my dad was in his mid 70s and he's crushing it. Like he's going up, and I was like, man, that's what I want to be as I get older. Like I want to be somebody who can do it. Like I want to go on vacation with my kids. I want to go out west and I want to go out for a 10K hike. I want to do that in my 70s and 80s. I want to be relevant, right? If you sit in a chair all day, you will be the shape of that chair.
We need shirts made of all this stuff you come up with these words. But like I think about your dad, and I think that whole family were so active. They didn't look at heart rate monitors. They didn't read about what almonds were good for them. They just did all these things. And I would just to go back and I would just pick brains like crazy. Like why? And I really feel it was just they just loved doing it. There was no rhyme or reason for it. They just wanted to be around family and they wanted to stay active and maybe stay relevant. But I don't. Anyway.
But don't you feel good when you exercise? You get that endorphins after. Like you feel great. Like it sucks maybe like, oh, I gotta do this, but then afterwards, man, I feel really good.
Yeah.
I feel really good. And you want to listen. There's certain genetic factors that I know I'm fighting. I'm sporting a bit of a dad bod, and that's okay. It's earned. But at some point, I'm not going to speak for you, but you look good still, coach. You look good. That's but it's one of those ones where you got to make sure that you still continue to be, I say relevant. I know Dan Dawson says that across the street all the time. He's like, I'm just trying to be relevant, and I'm out doing sprints with my kids on the street. They're training, and I'm out doing sprints, and my neighbors are like, go away, you're embarrassing us and all this stuff. I was like, come and join us. Come and join us. You don't have to sprint, you can jog, right? So these are all things that I enjoy. And what I try to do is I try to train with young people because it keeps pushing me.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
That's a fun part of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Talk to us at the mind. So you talked to us about taking care of your body. What else?
Reading. If a leader is a reader.
Leaders are readers. Leaders are readers. Yeah,
leaders are readers. And however your style of reading is. And I'm going to say you're listening to books on tape. So if you're in the car a lot and you're driving, if you're a truck driver and you want to expand your knowledge base, Automobile University, right? So I don't know. I get frustrated with radio. Sometimes it's just like,
oh, don't get me going.
Top 40. And I'm like, how many times I got to listen to the same song? And I'm just like, I'm just going to flip a podcast on. And
same
it's even
song about the advertising every 2 seconds. Like the kids will get in there with me and they want to flip in, like you said, their top 40 or whatever it is. I'm like, we're going to hear a song or am I going to hear advertising for this? Or then I'm hearing these people complain about their lives, the 2 talk show hosts, kind of like maybe what we're doing, but maybe I'm not into their conversation about garbage and makeup. And it's just,
no, there's so much more that you can be doing to maximize your time. Like I know a lot of our listeners say, I listen to you guys on the train. I listen to you guys on the way to work every day. I download one or whatever that gets me through the week. I have a 20-minute commute and I bang out your show, 2 or 3 shows a week. Like that's great. That's what we want. But I listen to other podcasts. Like there's a few that I like listening to, but I think what it does is you're learning a lot. And you don't necessarily, and I talked to a guy on the phone the other day and he was saying, again, I try to say I'm neutral, but he's like, he says, I listen to stuff that's on every side of the spectrum, right? Like right-wing stuff, left-wing stuff. He wants to be educated on all the issues I'm more about like health and nutrition and all that stuff, but like that's important. But I want to know what's wrong and what's right. I want to know what's everywhere and then make your own opinion. So anyways, like to me, taking care of your mind is that, along with like having that quiet time to just kind of think and be with your thoughts. And the gratitude idea of sitting outside, like this morning before we came on the show, I was having my coffee and looking outside, and
Black
it's
coffee.
black coffee, and watching the birds there. It's like I was like, man, there's a boatload of birds in my backyard. They're all fighting for nests and stuff like that. It's great. I love the springtime. There's so many things. So to me, it's like it's a gratitude thing, right? So these are all things that are super important. What are you laughing at? I'm sorry. Like,
Because we're birds in the back, same thing, birds, squirrels, all this stuff. But when I look at them, I look at it from an exercise perspective. I
yeah,
sit in there like, who's dominating this thing? How are they landing? How are they taking off? The squirrel jumped from that far. What did he analyze before he did it? Like I just go up with like a deep dive to find out like how is this working right now?
oh
Because
my God.
animals are amazing. They are amazing. Like they've been around way longer than we have, and how they just understand each other when they're. Anyways, I'm going on a whole
Oh
other
yeah,
tangent with this stuff, but it's interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Nature's amazing.
My neighbor's cat was in my backyard yesterday. I had a little stare down with him. I lost. I was like, wow. Anyways, yeah, you're right. Nature is amazing. So, anyways, I'm looking forward to getting the mountain bike out and getting out on the trails because you see so many cool things out there, and it's again a great time for thought. So that's the idea of taking care of your mind. And I think the other part of taking care of is social media. And I know, like, we have accounts, we do our thing on social media, and but I think you have to be very careful and limit that social media time because it could bend your mind a little bit in a lot of negative ways, right?
I catch myself some personally sometimes too, where and like you talked about it before, even channel surfing or Netflix surfing or whatever it is, and same thing with the social media. And then sometimes it's like I get a punch in the face, like, what are you doing right now? You could be
Yeah.
doing A, B, C, D. Like, what are you doing right now?
I used
You
to
could be
ask my
getting better.
kids how many times my students, I ask all the time, like, how often in a week are you scrolling where you get to the point on Instagram where it says you're all caught up, right? How far do you have to, how much stuff do you have to see? And it's like, there's this stuff that I don't care. So I try to, that's probably why we have terrible social media accounts is because we don't spend time on it, right? Like we don't, and it's like one of those ones where it's like, yeah, here's what we're doing, and that's it. But like, I'm not like somebody's like, oh, you could boost your social media 300% if you like did the fancy TikTok viral dance. I said, can you see
Oh
LaRock and
my
I?
god, no.
No,
Well, no, we're like the Yankees of no shaving and no shaving, clean shaving, the same concept, no TikTok dancing.
right? So these are all reels, and then you'll boost your social. Listen, great. I'm all the power to the people that are doing that, but I would rather provide our listeners with information and be relevant that way than being on TikTok for entertain or reels or whatever. And that's it. There's a place for that, and there's an industry for that. But yeah, we could do better. But I think we just want to. We're going to stay in our lane on that one, right?
No, Roger that.
Now, here's one that's going to maybe blow your mind, and I know you and
No,
I have had this conversation. Go ahead.
hold on. I'm gonna go back to the social media part too. So waking up in the morning, back to the AM routine. I'm just using mine as an example, not saying I'm the furthest thing from perfection. Making your bed, having the prune, brushing teeth, success hotline, then maybe opening your phone to some things like take care of you before, because what I'm seeing sometimes and I've heard, phone goes off, alarm goes off, and the first thing is like all the I don't even know what those things are, the pings, the whatever's happened from this morning or late last night. So your Facebook, what everybody else's lives are doing, what's popular on Instagram, to all like you're reacting to everything else that's happening in society and not taking care of yourself. Take
Yeah.
care of your business, find that window for yourself. It's 5, 10, 15 minutes to yourself. Then if you want to take it off, I'm suggesting go on airplane mode at night. That's just my
Yeah.
suggestion. Do your thing. And then if that's something you like doing, then take airplane mode off and then have at whatever else happening in the world. But take care of yourself first. And then you can be so much more productive for everybody else too.
Well, what you just said reminded me of something to say, like, spend time with people that matter. an influencer from wherever across the globe who has no impact on your existence. So, how much time are you spending watching them versus spending time
Mm.
improving yourself or your family? It doesn't equate to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I
trust
feel,
yourself. No, we don't
and I'm
trust
sorry if
ourselves
I
enough.
feel like I'm coming across like I'm rant. No, I don't apologize for it. I'm not apologizing for this. I know it sounds like I'm ranting about this, but it doesn't equate to me why I'm watching a video of stupid stuff. It's entertainment. I get it. It's entertainment. But don't make an excuse that you have bad habits, you're unhealthy, you have no money, whatever, you feel like a bag of toys, and you're not getting better because you're spending that time doing something on something irrelevant to your current existence. You are not taking care of the controllables. I, that's my rant on that.
I love Bag of Toys. We will have a shirt out in the future that says Bag of Toys. I'm putting this in right now into this show. I use that also. I heard you say it. We're having a shirt that's going to say Bag of Toys.
Bag of toys, bag of rusty hammers, whatever you want to call
Bag
it.
of
But
nails.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I had this conversation with my own kids, and it's like my oldest daughter. She said, "Dad, I deleted TikTok." I was like, she was like, explain it. She was like, "Yep." And her roommates, and now what's happened? Here's something. You be the influencer. You be the influencer. So she deleted TikTok. Now her friends deleted TikTok. They're not doing it anymore because they would just sit there and waste time. And then they realize, like, hey, instead of TikTok hour, why don't we sit around and let's shoot the breeze? Let's converse about
Yeah.
something important and get to know each other. I was like, oh my God, good for you. You know, those are all super important things. And it's important. It's important. And I think that's where the idea is spend time with people that matter. So here's something else. If you're going to have, and you and I've talked about this before, don't spend time with people that are not going to support your pursuit of good habits. Right? You and I talk about this all the time. Like, call it the inner circle. I don't have a lot of friends, right? But like I said, like if I want to be more conscious of my health, where my buddies are going out drinking every 3 nights or 2 nights, and they're going out and they're drinking a boatload of beer and eating chicken wings, and they're making fun of me because I don't want to do that. No offense to you guys, but I'm not going to be participating in that, right? So these are all things that you have to make those decisions to make yourself. They're tough decisions to make. Doesn't mean they're not going to be friends, but you have to change. Maybe look
Yeah.
at changing the activity that you're going to do with those friends. Hey, let's
That's
go
where I
for
was
a
going to
bike
go with
ride.
that. I was going to go with that. Like, there's friends and acquaintances. Some of those other people sound like acquaintances, not friends.
Yeah. So that, I mean, that's something that they're tough decisions to make. Remember, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? So that is something that you got to think about. What are we doing when we're together with those people, right? So now I want to say, like, we talk, so a lot of people talk about goals, and something that I wanted to touch on instead of goals is try themes. Because again, like motivation, goals can be deceiving, and the goalposts can change on you quite readily. And a lot of people, we've proven that their New Year's resolutions, they don't stick with them. But if you establish a theme, and this is really cool, is a theme is something that puts you in the right direction. Where, like, I want to eat less sugar, right? So, or I want to exercise more, is a general idea that points you in the right heading, right? And this, you don't get that weight of like, oh man, I fell off the wagon. Yeah, like I'll have a couple of glasses of wine over a nice dinner with some friends. Does that mean I'm a failure because I had a couple of drinks? Absolutely not. That's normal behavior. So having the theme, so my theme is I'm trying to drink less. I'm not trying to eliminate alcohol out of my life, but I'm trying to drink less, or I'm trying to exercise more. I'm trying to read more. Having a goal of I'm going to read 30 books by the end of the year is probably not something that's going to happen. But say, hey, like, I want to try to bang out more reading this year. So maybe it's in the form of books. Maybe it's a form of audiobooks. There's all different things. So that's why I'm a big advocate of the idea of themes. Does that make sense?
It does. Like you introduced that to me in the past. And I was a goal person, but I totally understand your theme perspective, and I like it, and I
Now,
respect it.
if you're disciplined and
Yeah,
crush the goals, right? And but if you're a person that says I don't have the motivation or the discipline, let's try themes instead. Now, I know it's important because we're talking about coaching and leadership. Can you go into this for us about the idea of pre and post competition or pre and post practice habits? Because this will be good for our coaches and our leaders.
yeah. So and that's actually the question. Let's have that conversation out loud together. What are you doing? So we're going to look at it from a coaching perspective. What are you doing pre-competition? Like, what's the structure? How long are your team showing up? You, we're just going to stick to sports for this one, I'm assuming. How long are your team showing up? Once they arrive, what's that structure look like? How long are they doing certain things? What does that habit look like? And then same thing on the flip side. Mark and I, we had the meeting with OFSA on this week, and we talked about post game conversations. Like, what's your post game meeting look like? How long is it for? What's your goal or your theme? There you go. I split that up there. What's your theme for the post game conversation? So having these things in place, having these habits in place, you're kind of bookending, I guess, your competition and your practice on both ends of it, and be able to have something in place that's going to be tangible for your athletes and for yourself, basically, to check off. I keep saying this checking off thing, but it's the way it is, and that's the way we're working, and it works for us. Doesn't mean it has to work for everybody else, but it works for us. So making sure arrive an hour and a half ahead of time. What's the example for practice? So like Mark says, if you're on time, you're late. If you're early, you're on time. I'll use the number 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock practice
You
starts.
totally just butchered that, by the way.
Did I? Go ahead. What is
If
it?
you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late.
There you go. Thank you. I'm a work in progress.
Yes.
So if you go 6 o'clock, once everybody gets there, is the conversation piece of this is what the practice plan looks like for today, what our objectives are for the day. They're off to go, example, do stretching, and then they break out into this group to do this, and these individuals are doing it. And you go through practice. Practice is over. We getting together as a group to have discussion. Everyone's scampering on their own. Is there, for us, we use sweeping the sheds. So I literally have, during practice, we have brooms in each dugout because we have enough players. We kind of divide things, and they literally sweep the sheds. Like, they sweep out the last two guys that we pick, and it's different people every practice. They sweep out, and they're the last two to leave to make sure everything's picked up better than we found it. Grab the brooms, then we go store things away. So, like, what are your habits? What are you things you have in place?
Now, coach, do you give your players individual time to formulate their own habits, and how would that look?
Well, that's what we talk about, the well, better, how, and we use the well, better, how to kind of structure what their themes. I use your word theme again. Their goals for themselves and what they need to accomplish and what they need to do. Like, we'll still pick position specific things for if we're talking about the team setting, position specific things for them to be able to do. If it's a pre-practice or pre-game or warm-up activity to get done to kind of help them in their domain.
Amazing. Amazing. And I think it's really good that younger people, not just athletes, but learn to develop good habits early, right? Like, you think about personal care, brushing your teeth, making your bed. These are all things. The earlier you can get on this and establish it, the better. It just becomes part of their lifestyle.
And people have asked that too. They're like, at what age do you think you would introduce this? At what age do you think? There's not, like you said about the sleep, there's not a certain hour. Like, sometimes when it's appropriate, or sometimes you scratch the surface to at least put the bug in the ear. So there's no set, like, at 5 you need to be able to do this, at 6 you need to be able to do this.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge fan of, like, what you're saying. If we can introduce things at a young enough age, by the time they get there, they get the experience to do these things on a consistent basis and do them well.
One of my training clients was really working hard to get himself into better shape, and he did. He really, really did a good job. And then he set his sights on, and he's like, I think we got him. And it was less about, like, the exercise that he was doing with me. It was just, he changed a lot of the habits in his life. The big thing was alcohol and food, and he just did not have a good set up for that at all. It was bad. Anyways, he ended up losing like in a year, less like 50 some pounds. And he was gone. Like my best compliment was he didn't need me anymore because
Yeah.
he had established it all on his own right now. But I remember he said to me, he's like, my son, 9 or 10 years old. And he's like, my son's not necessarily healthy. And I'm like, well, he says, well, like he's eating this, this, and this. I was like, well, why is that even in the house? Why is that like you are the leader in this? You are the role model in this. So if you're eating bad, that's the habit that your kid's picking up on. You're formulating those habits by your son. So do better by your son. Get your own house in order, which is good that you have done that. But then, hey, now it's like, hey, kid, we don't have those. Where's the chips, Dad? Well, I don't have chips. We got apples, and here's a little bit of cheese if you want it, like a little more, like whatever. They have to start early, and don't be afraid to be the parent. I
Not the
think that's
friend.
one of the conversation, right? Don't be afraid to be the parent and say, no, we're not going to eat that, or no, that's not what we want. It's not a great idea. It's you're the show. You're leading the show. And that's why I was like, you have to be in charge of what's going on in your own house. You control, unless your 9-year-old is going out and buying the groceries and bringing them into the house. But in most
And
cases,
then
that's
putting
not
them
the
away.
point, right? So, oh man,
I'll jump in here. The steps in the habit loop. There's some steps here in a habit loop. So one, just to be able to see how things work and what kind of ignites you and gets you going. So one, there's a trigger, then a routine, and then a reward. So example of a trigger. Let's go on the negative perspective when we don't have proper habits in place. So your trigger example, I'm going to use baseball selfishly. And the umpire makes a bad call. There's a trigger, just like your alarm would be in the morning, right? So your trigger is the umpire makes a bad call. Your routine, when you don't have proper routines, the hands go up in the air. Every time it seems like you see the hands go up in sports, the hands go up in the air, you know
soccer.
there's some problems. Yeah. The hands go up in the air. You're looking back at the umpire, you're kind of shaking your head. You're looking over at the bench like, hey, look, this person screwed me over. Look, I'm in a 0-2 situation now. Like it's everybody else's fault. So there's your routine. Not good. And then the reward. What do you get rewarded with this? Everyone knows that you feel like the umpire, screwed you over, and then you're letting everybody know and you're pointing the finger. So that's your trigger, routine, and your reward. If we can kind of recycle that trigger, same types of thing happens, the trigger. So it's almost like event, response, outcome, that same process. Yeah. So again, the trigger, bad call, routines. If we have proper routines, we have good routines in place, like we talked about red, yellow, and green. I'm stepping out, taking a deep breath, finding my focal point, or if I'm grabbing some dirt, squeezing it and letting it go. It's over. It's nothing I can control. I can only control how I react now in my routine. So my routine puts me into the right situation. And then I go back to my reward now. I just move on. That thing did not affect me. And sometimes what I'll tell some of our players is, if we need that specific pitch to win or for you to be successful, we have bigger problems.
Yeah.
Don't let that one thing kind of dictate how, because of that, we lost a game. Because of that, like when you break things down, it's not that one specific moment. It's how our habits and our preparation. So that's a little bit of the 3-step process.
Yeah. And it's interesting that event, response, outcome. We were in New York City down in Times Squares, and shocker, I wanted a coffee. So we were in, and it was black. It was busy, right? And there's a lot of people, and the baristas, they were like, it was overwhelming, the amount of people. It's New York City, down like Manhattan. And somebody got messed up the order, and there's a long wait to get your order, right? So the person lost their mind. I'm gonna say a Karen lost their mind. And it was really embarrassing, and you could see people, they were going off, and people were starting to squirm a little bit, and it was kind of like, what's going on here? And I said to the lady, I was like, how is this helping anybody here? Is this making, are you feeling better about yourself that you're belittling this poor girl that's working her butt off? And I think it was whoever was serving or didn't actually make the drink, but they're taking the brunt of it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, luckily she wanted a black coffee. So I was like, you can have mine. But like, it was just one of those ones where it's like, why, like you say, the reward is it making you feel better to be upset at this level publicly, right? Where you could have just said, hey, this is the wrong order. I mean, it's easy for me to say because I'm not there, and who knows what that person's day was like. Maybe there was other things. Remember, the person's not the problem. The problem is the
Is the
problem.
problem.
So, anyways, so she turned her aggression to me and be like, you get anyways, it was like, it was uncomfortable, but your story reminded me of this. It doesn't have to be a sports thing. It could be a life thing.
Yeah.
There's always a trigger, a routine, and a reward, which tells me the way this lady was acting was probably not the first time this had happened. Right? It's probably not the first time that she's gone off on somebody in the service industry. Like, it doesn't take much to make somebody's day, or to make somebody else's day bad. So anyways, these are habits that we get into. It's that negative mindset instead of having that positive mindset. So I just want to say, like, make yourself worthy of winning, right? Make yourself worthy of winning by developing winning habits and a winning mindset. Like, when we mean habits, it means how you think. And we did a show on habits, or sorry, we did a show on mindset. If you have that winning mindset, these habit things will be super easy. Right? And I've heard you say this before: wake up awesome, go to bed tired. You've done your work, you've done your job. And I think that's what we have to really, that's what we're trying to get through today, is we're all capable of change. And the other one I want on a t-shirt is, I'm better today than I was yesterday, and I'm going to be better tomorrow than I was today. Right? And I think that's what we need to make sure that we're heading in that right direction.
What's our call to action?
Oh man, journal time.
Here we go.
Right? So this is where it gets, and you say one of your habits is take time to scribe. Take time to scribe. And I know this is something that we've highlighted before. So journaling is really important, I think, for leaders and coaches to keep, with so much goes on in a day, write it down. So this is an easy one. This is one of our easiest call to actions that we'll ever have. So I want you to make a list of your habits. Okay, so like we've shared some of ours: exercise, reading, drinking coffee, put it in there. What
Black.
you eat. Yeah, black. I don't know why. Actually, there is a story of why I like black coffee. I didn't drink coffee until I was an adult. And I was out, we taken a group of students I didn't have a lot of money when I first started teaching, and I had the opportunity to take a group of students on an exchange. So we went to Italy, and we were in Venice, and I had never had coffee before. So you ever see the movie with Will Ferrell? He's the soccer coach, and it's got what's his name, Mike Ditka in it. What's it? Kicking and Screaming. So I was basically the Will Ferrell here. So what I did was, I used to run a lot more back then. So I'd get up in the morning when we were traveling, and I'd go for a run. It was Venice. So I'd get up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, but nobody was up at that time, except for the lady who's like the little kind of hotel we were staying at. She was baking and making like little biscuits and stuff like that, and coffee. And I'd go for a run. She'd always look at me. I didn't understand a word she said. But after the first day, I'd come in, and she had a coffee and like a biscuit there for me. Like a biscotti, sorry. And she was like, coffee? And I was like, I don't drink coffee. And she was like, no, you drink coffee. And I didn't want to insult the old lady, so I started drinking coffee, and it was the most delicious coffee. And I was like, oh my God, I've been missing out on this my entire life. And that was it. And it started from there. So it was just like, that's how my coffee addiction started. Yeah. So that's where it was in Venice, Italy. So, and it was black, so I never had anything in it. So I've never really, had much experience with other stuff like that. So I know some people like their Wayne Gretzky's, which is 9. I had a friend of ours who runs at Tim Hortons here in town. And I said, what's the craziest drink you've ever served? And he said, we got a regular that comes in for a large Wayne Gretzky, 9 cream, 9 sugars. So if you're a Wayne Gretzky drinker out there, bless your heart. That's a lot of stuff. So anyways, back to sorry, you send me down a rabbit hole there, G. So making a list of all your habits. We've shared a bunch of ours here with you guys. You can use the Habit Share app if you want. Highlight the good ones and make sure you keep celebrating those and doing those. Identify the bad ones. And the idea is, like, I use a column, is if you have a bad one, so say like it's Doritos, what are you going to replace Doritos with? And you have to have a plan on how you're going to replace the bad ones with a better one. Okay, and I think that's what we want you to do this week. That's your homework for the week, is make sure that you just list them all out. And if you want to take it a step further, download that Habit Share app, find your accountability partner, and start sharing some of those good habits you want to go to. You will be rewarded, I promise.
And to add to that, before we conclude here, I tried this with a class that I'm working with now. People talk about vision boards, so I had them do for their assignment a vision board. So on this side, but on this side, what are the things that are going to prevent you from doing this? Because they're going to happen. It's literally out there. So why, vision board's awesome, but let's be realistic that things are going to get in the way. So what are those things? And then underneath, I talked about exactly what you said, a plan. What is going to be the plan? So if your Doritos is out, something else is in, what's the plan? You can just say it's going to be that simple. And hopefully it is simple for some of you, but what's the plan when it hits the fan? What is the game plan?
Cool. Wake up, grow up, so you can show up and be your best self, right? Well, that does it for this episode of Benchmarked. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
Keep crushing it.